Well, it's an absolutely beautifully crisp Sunday morning here in the UK, and we're about to take the car out for a proper shakedown run, as I've now really finished all the work I wanted to do on her. I can't think of anything else that needs doing. So just sort of take you through what I've done with the car over the last nearly 2 years since we've had it. She always ran a bit hot when we started. Looked at the way the air conditioning rad was positioned on the car, and there was approximately 2 inch gap between that and the main cooling rad. So that was sort of taking the brunt of all of the air that was coming in the front of the car, completely stopping it dead. And then there was you've got a 2 inch gap for that air then to sort of just sit around, and then you've got the main rad without too much flow. So they're now sandwiched together, so all the air coming through the front of the car really just goes straight through both rads at the normal velocity that air is coming in. So I'm really happy with that. That certainly improved things. Coming to the back of the car, thermostat was changed. I've got an 82-degree thermostat in the car now, and just one or two little holes I put in that to modify it, to get a little bypass when the thermostat is closed. She really sits at the right temperature now, with the fans just occasionally coming on and off. Went to Southern GT and purchased one of their rod gear changes, and swapped out the cable mechanism this car had when I received it. I didn't like it at all. It certainly wasn't as precise as I'd like, and coupled with the fact I was changing hands with the right hand for the first time in a long time, since I used to drive Formula Fords, I didn't feel comfortable changing the changing gear at speed in case I snatched the wrong cog, so to speak. So that was a work that took quite a while last year. So that rod change is in. I'm really happy with it. And she did have a slightly sticky throttle cable. I mean, it was an old throttle cable. I think the internal wire has sort of gone through the PTFE inside, and then was actually sort of grating on the metal surround, so it was a bit sticky. I put a new throttle cable in when I had the chance, with the seals off and the tanks out for the rod change, and it now is a really sweet throttle. I'm really happy with that. When it comes to the ignition system, it did have a Mallory double points system. Changed that for an insert you can put in to change it over to a magnetic sort of Hall effect device. Upgraded all of the leads, so they now run down under the exhaust. The original set sort of draped over the top, and it didn't look particularly nice. Along with that electronic ignition setup, so to speak, it's allowed me to change out the coil, so we don't have a condenser on the distributor anymore. We really have a redundant ballast resistor, because this is a 12-volt system through and through, not 12 volts on start and reverting back to 6. So that's all done. I'm really happy with that. I've gone back to a vacuum advance. I did try it without a vacuum advance, but this makes it it just makes it more tractable in traffic, I think, and I think it's more fuel efficient with this setup. Added a fuel pressure valve, as I didn't know what we had originally. The fuel pump, this Holly fuel pump, was very noisy when I first started. I swapped this out. This is a new one, and a new regulator as well, as I sort of had question marks over it. It was running about 6.5 psi with this carburetor when we bought the car, and when we put the Webers on, obviously Webers won't tolerate 6.5 psi on the fuel. It'll just jam open the floats. So that regulator it just wouldn't go down to that lower fuel pressure. The addition of remote oil cooler at the back of the car here, which I think is nicely positioned with a takeoff sandwich plate, and I've gone for a shorter oil filter. I can't get the sandwich plate in and the normal length motorcraft filter that she had. And then the exhaust was modified. Addition of new tailpipes. There were very small tailpipes on it. It just didn't look fitting for the car. So all in all, that's about as much work as I ever intended to do. As you all know, over there sitting the now retired Webbers, the whole point of putting this setup back on was to find out if there was anything wrong with the fuel and the ignition system that was causing it to be a bit hesitant in the mid-range. Now I've got this car back as I want it, and it really is driving absolutely fantastically. I've got no appetite to go and take it all off again and put this back on. All in all, I think these may have the edge when the car's absolutely wide open, but on startup, tick over, low end torque, mid-range performance, and sort of drivability and the way it responds, I really think the big 4-barrel Holly has it, to be perfectly honest. And although it doesn't have the look, I mean, these just are a classic look for the top of an engine, but I just don't think they're worth the effort. So these will either get assembled, reassembled and sold off, or be the basis for a pretty nice looking coffee table or something. But anyway, that's a decision for a later time. So we're going to take her out. I've got the first good day with no rain. It's not even damp. This car's never been out in the wet in its entire life, and it's not going to start under my custodianship. So we're going to take her out. I'm going to put the camera in the car. Let's see how she drives. And I just hope all of this work has come to fruition. Now the car's likely to be going into storage for the next 4 years, as I've got plans overseas, and I don't think we'll part with her. I've received an offer from someone who's happy to offer a price that they'll back up over the next 2 years if I decide to sell while we're away. But all in all, she'll go into storage. She'll be mollycoddled like in cotton wool, and she can sit. I'll come back next year maybe, and we'll take her out for down to Le Mans for the Classic. We'll fly back in for that, and then put her back in storage and go back overseas. So she's stone cold now. I'm going to jump in. She's fully fueled, and we'll take a nice drive, see how she goes. Here we are, sat in the car. It's not been started yet today, so I mean the temperature outside is only about 5 degrees, and we'll probably see just how easy this car is to start now compared with what it was with the Webbers. The rear view hasn't changed much. Instead of the 8-stack, we're sitting there looking at the top of the new air filter that's on the Holly. So fuel pump's a bit louder than the original. I just normally give her 2 squirts on the throttle, make sure we're in neutral, and let's see what she does. About every 500, 750 miles. But let's just get her warmed up and we'll take it for a drive. Just having a little run out towards the M3. Just on the 322 out of Bracknell. Everything's done. I've double checked everything, every due release, tyre pressures, and it's a beautiful day for it.